Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way on transfer deadline day, or Thursday, the 1st of February, as us Celtic fans know it. Have we got time for hilarity, guys? There's a lot to get through. We just did a wee rundown there before we started, and there is a hell of a lot to chat about. How are you both getting on, Kevin? How's things?
Yeah, yeah, good. Just watching the unfolding car crash of what masquerades as our transfer window just stuttering and spluttering to a sad halt as the hours count down. I know that's not very,
I was going to say, dear oh
not
dear.
very bright, but I mean, we're just like all the rest of the Celtic supporters, we're the sad schmucks, right, over the last few weeks, sort of, including me going, just give it time. It's a 31 days, it's best to get the right people in. We only need 2 or 3. And, you're just left with the impression that the people who apparently run the club they just don't give, they just don't give a toss about us, aspirations, what we want for the club, messaging, communication. It's just invisible men and one woman.
Yeah, January does have 31 days, Ryan, but why use all 31 when you can just use the last one to do the majority, if not basically all of your business, eh? How's things, Ryan?
Things are good, yeah. Was it Depeche Mode last night? So I'm in a pretty good mood this morning.
Any puns for us based off Depeche Mode song titles? We did Just Can't Get Enough yesterday, that was the obvious one.
Yeah, I don't know. Never Let Me Down Again. Sounds like Celtic in a transfer window. Yeah, it was good though. But I'm glad to be back on the morning briefing. Yeah, you might as well do all your business on the last day, cram it in, do some last minute studying or the transfer deadline day equivalent of doing so. Lots of players to talk about, both coming in and out. In terms of ins, it's probably more rumours for some of them than others. But it's good that some of the, you don't want to say deadwood, but some of the players that aren't really contributing as much are heading elsewhere. That was just as important as bringing people in, I would say. So they've got that. They've got a few people out or going out, which is pretty good. But expected a bit more on the other front, to be honest.
Yes, indeed, that's where we're at. Anyway, it's good to have you both with us. It's also good to have you all watching live and those who are watching afterwards. Watching live in the live chat, we've got morning to Mark, we've got morning to Hazel and Tam and Son of Scotland and Sean. It's good to have you all with us. Before we just move on quickly, sponsor shout out MPH Group and Navien. This video sponsored by those two legends. MPH are Scotland's award-winning family run all trades specialists, and they cover mainland Scotland. So if you're in that area, fair chance you are, and are thinking of giving your home heating system a boost this winter, they have a Navien Boiler Winter Promotion for you. MPH even offer flexible finance options so you can make the smart move and sign up with them. But will Celtic be signing anyone today, guys? Adam Idah has jetted into Glasgow. Emphasis on the word jetted there. He was photographed late last night at Glasgow Airport, so that is a deal that will be completed today, barring any late hitches. Me and Tony covered this a lot on yesterday's video. A fair bit of fan sentiment was shared as well, majority of it not wholly positive. I don't really want to chat too much about Adam Idah himself because it seemed a little bit unfair to me, to a guy who's not even kicked a ball for Celtic, that we would be negative about him personally. But in terms of like Celtic generally in business, the big development, guys, since yesterday's video is that it seems very much like the deal will be a loan transfer with no option to make it permanent in the summer. So that's what multiple outlets are saying, Kevin. So a bit of a strange one, bringing in a young player on a loan and not really having a chance to make it permanent afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to look at that from all angles, and all I can conclude is that if we're bringing him in for 6 months max, if you're it's not exactly a great vote of confidence, because that to me says, right, well, we're bringing him in, and we don't see him as long term, but he's an emergency up front, because we don't really think we've got the capabilities as it is. It's, and what does it say to the opposition? Other teams, if he does get a game, they know there isn't a great deal of confidence in this guy before he even starts. And like you want him to do well, and somebody's seen something. I'll be the first out my seat if he performs well and he makes a difference. But it's just, there's the negative. You can understand why there's negativity. You look at all the players that Celtic have bought in the last 15, 16, 17 years, and you're talking about less than a handful who have represented a serious investment, all of whom have done well. And then you look at all the ones who are either loan players or in the kind of £2 to £3 million bracket. I mean, we're about 6-7 months after we brought in that glut of transfers in the summer. Almost half of them are either leaving the club or about to leave the club.
Yeah.
I've never seen. I've never kind of lived through this. This is an experience I've never had as a Celtic fan. And what makes it even more bizarre is that, any other season, we're sitting at the top of the league, 2 points clear. We've beaten our oldest rivals the first 2 games of the season, showed a bit of promise in the Champions League. Yeah, we're looking at the rest of the season, and the atmosphere is just dead, and a lot of this is because Brendan Rodgers has said at least twice since the summer, we need quality players, 4 of them, and he said it again at the start of the transfer window, and it hasn't happened. And there's no communication, there's no messaging, apart from the odd time their favourite kind of glove puppet journalist in one of the outlets, gets some kind of words from above and just copies it out word for word. That's it.
Yeah, it's hard to shake that, but the way that we feel and a lot of people feel, we need to point out, isn't how everyone feels. Laurie saying negativity, look at where we are. Would you rather we sign on entities for $1 million? Who cares about the opposition? I'm glad I don't sit beside you. That's to you, Ryan, 100%. He's glad he doesn't sit beside you. Well, both of you then. He doesn't want to be anywhere near both of you. I mean, that's how some people feel, and I get that the negativity, it feels quite draining, but it feels draining to me as well. And I wanted to have something to be excited about. And as we say, Ryan, Idah could be a big player for us. We don't know. He's got decent enough pedigree. Mm-hmm. Arguably not the pedigree you would want even for a backup striker at Celtic, but he's not had a complete failure of a career so far. He showed promise. He's a Republic of Ireland international, all of that stuff. But you can't shake the feeling that it's not a particularly exciting signing. And I think as football fans, other than your team winning, the thing you want to feel, maybe sometimes even more than winning, is you want to be excited about what you watch and how you feel about the club. And it's hard to feel that excitement at the moment. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's the optics of the deal more than anything else, of how it looks towards both, the supporters looking in and every other team watching what Celtic are doing. It's, at the end of the day, and people have said this, it's Norwich's third choice striker. Norwich are getting Sidney Van Hooijdonk, a player, alone with an option to buy. They've actually got an option to buy on that deal. They had to wait for that to kind of go through and be accepted. I think it's only a matter of getting announced now, if it hasn't already been announced. So now they can let Idah go to Celtic. and yet on the other side of it, Celtic don't have an option to buy on the player. So it's basically, we'll develop Norwich's player for 6 months, then they can put a price tag and sell him to the highest bidder. It's the optics more than anything else. He could do a good job for Celtic. He's got enough attributes. He doesn't really score goals from headers, is what I've found out. Despite him being 6'2", 6'3", sort of that sort of Alexander Isak sort of player. That he's a tall player, but he's good on the ball, or he makes decent runs. Scores more with his feet than his head, that's for sure. But as soon as he pulls that Celtic jersey on, I want him to do well, because he's been brought in, whether it's for a backup, whether it's to challenge for Kyogo's spot. Regardless, I'd want him to do well, but it's just how this move looks from the outside looking in. It just doesn't look great, if you get what I mean. And I can see why people are negative about it. I'm trying to be as positive as I can. I know there's a video coming out today from Tony was speaking to a journalist from Norwich all about Idah. I'm sure there's some positives in that about the player.
What was the gist there? Have you heard? Or
I've not heard from Tony since he did the video last night, but I'm sure there will be positives because he was and still is highly rated down south. It's just a lot of people have said he just needs a move for the sake of his career to get to new surroundings. This could be the move to make him. My only problem with that is if he feels comfortable and settled, then Norwich can just decide a fee rather than already predetermining a fee before he goes out on loan. We're kind of walking or running to Norwich's tune at the moment here.
Okay. While saying he'll be covered for Kyogo, I think most people would agree with that. We might not see a great deal of Adam Idah. It may just be that Celtic want a third forward in. My argument would be we could have gone for a higher calibre, or certainly from the outside looking in, a higher calibre of player. Certainly one my long-term future at the club. We got Andrew there asking, can you please list the outgoings for us, Hamish? So I've very just quickly looked up on Wikipedia. So we've lost Yosuke Ideguchi already this month. That was a permanent transfer to Vissel Kobe. Kwon has gone out on loan to St Mirren. Adam Montgomery's gone out on loan to Motherwell. We'll come on to that in a wee second. Mackenzie Carse has gone out on loan to Queen's Park. And Johnny Kenny apparently went out on loan to Shamrock Rovers. I must admit I missed that one. We've also had Marco Tilio returning to Melbourne City, leaving Scotland for Melbourne. What kind of idiot would make that move, eh? He's I don't blame him, to be fair, and certainly in terms of football, I don't blame him because he's going to get more game time here. I mean, what would you make of that, Kevin? I guess he's kind of under the bracket you were talking about 2 minutes ago of players signed in the summer that already seem like they don't have a future.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of 4 or 5. Lager Bielke, which we've been saying for a couple of months now, he'll soon be out the door. You're talking about the optics. Anybody looking at what would appear to be a strategy, and we've been told for several years now, the new reality is having a recruitment strategy. We've moved away from, we need a couple of new signings, we need to strengthen this area of the team, we need to strengthen that area of the team. With a club like Celtic, who are like they're one of the Europe's in-betweeners, big club, great history, like Benfica, like Anderlecht, just getting solely pushed below Champions League. Great fan expectations, but also knowing that their model has to be spotting the odd really good player from the continent that's proceeded underneath the radar, bringing them in, like Edouard, Dembele, maybe Jota, selling them on for a lot of money. And the fans over several years have lowered their expectations and they're on board with that strategy. 10 years ago, that would not have been acceptable. 15 years ago, because we still had dreams that one of these years we can make our mark in the Champions League. That's going to be so the fans have bought into that. But what they do expect, if you're talking about a strategy and recruitment, heads of recruitment, assistant heads of recruitment, scouting networks, which we've been told on several occasions has been developed over several years and is working full time across Europe, never not seen in Scotland. They're permanently moving across Europe, keeping the head coach, whoever it might be, updated. And last summer, from a position of strength, and with this prize of Champions League qualification, which each year gets more and more crucial, both to us and our closest rivals, the very last one, having won a treble, we've laid out something in the region of 15, 16, 17 million on 8 or 9 players. We've received, and you include the Jota fee in this, something in the region of 30, 32 million. And half of those signings, some of 2 or 3 of whom cost, 3.5, 4 million. And I remember sitting here with Tony talking about Tillio and thinking, he sounds quite promising. He looks, perhaps seen the videos. And 5 or 6 months later, no, out you go. Back to Melbourne, Navroki, not good enough. Not Navroki, Lagat Bielki. So what is the strategy? If there has been a strategy, it has failed. It's utterly failed. And there doesn't appear to be, Brendan Rodgers doesn't appear to have any great confidence in it. The journalists that, were favoured with the quotes last night, did any of them say, so Brendan, you've said on at least 2 occasions we need 4 quality players. We're a big club, we've got a massive scouting network. And in those 3 or 4 months, a club like Celtic, which still has some pulling power, can't get in a single player that you could be confident. And, Idah might do it, but gives confidence that he can hit the ground running and add something. Not good. It's not good.
Yeah, Northern Celtic making an interesting point. Not sure Sidney Van Hooydonk would have been any better than Idah. We'll support the lad and hope he leaves us all with egg in our faces. But with our war chest, we should have been aiming higher. And I think it's as simple as that. We should be aiming higher. Just on Tillio, Michael pointing out, Ryan, that Tom Rogic did the same. He signed for Celtic, was loaned back. I want to say to Melbourne Victory, although I could be wrong there. Was, yeah. And he did all right in the end. So, but Tillio,
that wasn't even a good loan spell for Tom Rogic because he was injured for the majority of it. It was just a change of manager that was the difference. Ronnie Dyler took a punt on him, and the rest is history. But
that may be what Tillio needs. Change of manager.
What, a change in manager or a change in...
Well, you never know that when he comes back in the summer, who knows where
I suppose... Yeah, it's just 6 months. You've had a player for 6 months and then he's already back. I would have preferred them to be going out on loan if any team was interested, of course, and I'm sure they would be if a player's going from one of the top team in Scotland to one of the top teams in Australia. You would think that maybe in the middle somewhere a Scottish team would have been interested. I'd much rather him playing his games in Scotland and getting that game time in the Scottish League, because we know that Tillio can do it in Australia. That's the reason why Celtic signed him in the first place. You're just going to get more of the same. He's probably going to score goals and be a main player for Melbourne City until the end of the season, but we won't learn anything new. The only thing he'll be getting is game time. I'd much rather, if he's going to be if he's going to be a player that Celtic are going to try and develop long term, try and send him to Hibs, try and send him to somebody a team that'd be interested in him. You might even need to go lower down in the Premiership, but it's a player that teams are crying out for a tricky winger that Tillio is, and I think he could have adjusted so much better to the needs and the requirements of the Scottish Premiership. I just think by sending him back to where Celtic got him 6 months ago, it's almost as if you just go and play football and we'll review the situation rather than actively developing the player, which is disappointing. And I hope he does well at Melbourne City and gets game time, but at the same time, where does his future lie? And I'm not so sure long term.
Yeah, I think if Rodgers had plans for him to come back into the Celtic first team and this was used as a kind of development loan, then I think he probably would have stayed in your part of the world gone to a Hibs or someone like that, or even down to England. I think the fact he's coming back to Australia is probably good for him. The guy's probably buzzing. He's probably buzzing to be coming back and back to the club that he knows before, and playing without that pressure. I mean, the pressure here, I can't put into words how different it is. You know, in the A-League compared to what we experience. The stadiums are never more than half full, unless it's a huge game, and I think he will excel. But like, I'm excited to see, you know, what he can be. I know it's at a lower level. I don't think the A-League is massively, you know, noticeably poorer than like the majority of teams in our league. Obviously, the top teams, top 4 or 5 teams, I think would all win the A-League pretty comfortably. But you know, Melbourne City are a decent enough side, so I'm intrigued to see how he gets on. But hopefully he does amazing and kind of gives us something to think about. That's what we want. David Turnbull expected to join Cardiff City today. Will be a permanent deal, probably netting us around £2 million. Guys, who saw that coming for a guy with a number of months left?
6 months left in his deal. I think we'll take that.
Said $500,000 yesterday, didn't we? Any words on David Turnbull?
I feel,
Kevin?
I just feel heart sorry about that whole situation. You know, when we signed him, you know, before, I mean, and we did the right thing by him when, you know, he had that very serious injury, and I think we paid for his treatment, and then we kept faith with him when he came back, and he's one of the most exciting attacking midfielders in the country. I rejoiced when we signed him because I'd seen him play for Motherwell against us, and he was an exceptional player. Great vision, not a panicky player, spotted good goal scoring opportunities, got into positions, not easily knocked off the ball, and could finish from outside the box, which is an extra dimension, which he's shown when he's at Celtic Park. I can't even put my finger. I can't really put my finger on, you know, why it hasn't happened for him, because you can't point to a run of games where he's been the first choice in that position and has failed to deliver. And I would love to have seen him been given been given 15, 20 games. I know you can say, well, you know, Celtic don't have that luxury of continuing with a player who doesn't deliver, but that never happened with him. His goal scoring to appearance ratio is still very good, and he does give us something that no one else in the squad. Maybe Callum McGregor, if he was playing further forward, but Callum McGregor over the last 2 or 3 years has been playing in a receded position. So it breaks my heart. I can see why he's going, and it's good to get $2 million, but you know, just a young Scottish player, still youngish Scottish player, that, and I just can't put my finger on why it hasn't worked out. It wouldn't have been me. I would have kept faith with them. I would have opted to play him in more games. I don't think he's had proper support, and I think sometimes the Celtic supporters, as they are with Scottish players, are less patient with them than they are with overseas players. That's just my opinion.
I don't think he's been a bad Celtic player at all. He's certainly, I mean, his goal scoring record has been, you know, impressive, and that's actually the thing that probably we'll remember about him is those long range goals. He's scored like 10 brilliant, sensational Celtic goals from distance. My argument would be, if for him not getting game time, is you know, in that midfield you need to be you're basically playing for two positions, because Callum McGregor's got one of them nailed down, and when you're up against Rio Hatate and Matt O'Reilly, you're never going to be first choice unless he was doing something spectacular. And to be honest, when I watched him, he did, you know, the odd thing, and as I say, his goals were excellent, but I always just wanted that wee bit more from him. Maybe if he got that run in the team over the last, you know, 18 months or so, we maybe would have seen that. I think he'll go on to have a good career down south.
I really hope so. I'd love to
I hope
see
so
him.
as well.
I'd love to see him become a Scotland international, really shine for Cardiff, and maybe get a move into the Premiership, or I don't know, Germany or Italy, because I do think he's a very, very talented footballer.
Yeah. Reo Hatate went off injured for Japan yesterday, a calf injury, we believe. We don't know anything else really at this stage, Ryan, unless you've got a private line to Hatate's doctor.
Tony might think I do, but I don't. Yeah, it's another blow in what has been a season of blows for Reo Hatate and Carter Vickers, for that matter as well. Those two players been missing for large portions of the season. It is something that Celtic, they'll try and deal with it, but they're two really, really important players for the way that Celtic play throughout a season. Okay, am I okay to just go back on Turnbull for a wee second?
Just briefly, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be as quick. There was just other players that could give more, I think, in that position, and it's a shame because he was the shining light in 2020-21 season. He was the only shining light in what was a truly dreadful season, both on and off the park for the club. It's just his timing as well, because he was a first team pick for Ange Postecoglou. Then he gets injured in the League Cup final. By the time he comes back, Matt O'Reilly and Reo Hatate are there, and you're going to play those two ahead of him, unfortunately, because they give you a bit more dig on the defensive end. It's a shame, but I think he can be a star, much like Ryan Christie was a star for Bournemouth when he went down to the Championship. I've got no doubt that he can do it down there, but I think he's a bit of a luxury player that Celtic just can't afford anymore, unfortunately.
Yes. So we wish him all the best. We expect that to be confirmed later today. We've gained a left back already today, guys. I don't know if you've seen this. Amazing news. A left back at Celtic that we didn't have before today. I'm talking about Adam Montgomery, everyone. Sorry to burst that bubble. He's returned from his loan spell at Motherwell after picking up a, quote, serious injury that will keep him out for a considerable period of time. Those are the words from Motherwell. They say that Montgomery has returned to Celtic to undergo his rehabilitation. So that's obviously not great news. It seems like he's going to be missing for a period of months there. You're talking, so not great there. In terms of left backs, and we're getting asked, it's kind of a few people chatting about it, and Doc Boy wondering if we've got any rumours, and Scotland the Brave talking Kurzawa now, please. Walks into any SPFL side and instantly becomes the best left back easily. Doesn't matter about game time. The man will adjust. So we're talking about Navien Kurzawa, the 31-year-old former France international, who's remarkably still in the books of Paris Saint-Germain. I know, crazy. Anyway, he certainly has pedigree. He would have been viewed as one of the best left backs in the world. Unfortunately, probably that was 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. The Daily Mail reporting that Kurzawa's agent has made Celtic aware of the interest. He's barely featured for Paris Saint-Germain this season. I think he's made one appearance maybe. He did spend last season on loan at Fulham, but again barely featured. We did get a comment in B saying, not sure about that French guy, seems like Jeremy Toljan situation, and I've got that very thing written down here. It gives me Jeremy Toljan vibes, but Ryan, you may be more positive about this, I sense.
Tell you, if this was 6, 7, 8 years ago, I'd be like, what a coup for Celtic. No, he's a good. He has been a good pro throughout his career. I always remember him at PSG. He seemed to have that left back spot tied down for a considerable amount of time. Yes, he's not played in a few years consistently. It makes you think, why are Celtic going in for him if they're looking for someone to go and instantly improve that position? Will he take time to adjust? Is he still the player that he was? He might have lost a yard or so of pace, although you could probably point to Kyle Walker as saying that's an exception of a player not losing his pace, being 32, 33 years old. If that deal's there to be done, then I wouldn't be personally against it. It's good to have a bit of pedigree in that position, push Greg Taylor or, replace Greg Taylor in the starting lineup. If both sides can agree a deal that's beneficial for both sides, then I'd be all for this. But, people are saying in the comments already that it's a non-starter apparently. So,
Laxalt's been mentioned as well. Is it a bit laxalty?
Yeah, I mean, but it's all about how these players can acclimatise, because they come to Celtic and they've had a good career because you look at the teams that they've played for, but it's all about that fit when you're at Celtic as well. You can be good at any club, but it's all about that fit when you get into Celtic. I think it's a watch this space one. Celtic do need a left back. I don't think they can afford not to bring a left back in before the deadline tonight. So we'll see if they can come up trumps in that regard.
I'll take you back to when we signed Lubo Moravcik. There are certain parallels here, because we signed Moravcik at 30. There was a lot of negative response, because like the football press in this country are largely ignorant of anything that happens outside the Scottish Central Belt. Lubo Moravcik had got to the quarterfinal of the World Cup with the Czech Republic, played for St Etienne. He was derided. The signing was derided by Joe Venglos because, apart from anything else, we were getting him at the age of 30. And for 2 years, he basically, enchanted us. And we were all saying, God, if only we could have got him at 24, 25, what a player he would have been. I saw him destroy Juventus at Parkhead. We beat them 4-3. Not destroy. He was the top man. So Kurzawa, he's got the same pedigree, and he's still, he's 31. That's nothing. 31 now compared to being 31 15 years ago. Nothing like it. You still expect 3, 4, 5 years if somebody's looked after themselves. My only issue with that is that, you bring him in last day of the transfer window, hasn't played for a while. There's only 4 months left of the season. No matter how good his pedigree is and no matter how high a level he had played at, you can't just kind of come straight into a team. Like, let's say we got him and we give him a go in 2 or 3 weeks. You can't just say just because of his pedigree he's going to be brilliant. I have no doubt, having watched him loads of times, that 2-3 months down the line, if he was in a team, he would be brilliant for us. And maybe for that, it's worth signing. And it's next season. And also because of his pedigree and who he's played under, he might even be able to help Greg Taylor with his game. There's that. But we basically got a title to win, and that has to be won over the next 4 or 5 months. So I wouldn't dismiss it entirely at all.
The thing about a left back is that at the moment Bernabe is starting in that position. That simply cannot be, unfortunately.
No.
Something has got to give in that position. Either you play Scales there or you bring somebody in tonight.
Bernabe can't start against Aberdeen and Hibs away. That for me is asking for huge trouble. I personally don't think this Kurzawa thing is going to come off. It just strikes me as the exact kind of rumour we hear on the last day of the window. If it does happen, I think I'd be kind of for it. I mean, he has good pedigree. I know he hasn't played a lot recently, but I think he'd do pretty well. But I would be lying if it didn't remind me of Laxalt and Toljan. Neither of them did particularly well. Brendan Rodgers. Is it today? Chat to the media. It'll probably be tomorrow, won't it? I've
not heard anything about today because, I think every question would be on the transfer window if they were to do it today. Yeah, probably better off doing it tomorrow when there'd be,
every question about the transfer window.
Yeah, that's true. But then he's got no way to sort of go back on it. What he says is what he says, and that's done. And then you need to focus on the next thing. I think it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. What won't be tomorrow is you and Tony getting together later for a video. Give us the info.
Yeah, I think we're going to be going on from about 10 o'clock to 11:30, 12 for deadline day special. I'll need to get my gym white yellow tie out.
Or just don't.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to wear the same things I'm wearing here, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know what's going to entail in those last few hours. We'll see. It could just be an extended discussion for an hour and a half talking about things, but who knows? Hopefully, everyone that's interested can join us later on. We'll give you an alternative take to the transfer window, I guess.
Yes, I won't be on. I appreciate the offer, though. I'm actually moving flat at exactly that time. It's Friday morning here, so I will be on Friday morning's briefing, probably with no furniture. Genuinely moving into a place with no chairs, no tables, so it's going to be fun. No Wi-Fi, so yeah, it'll be interesting. Kind of fitting to talk about this car crash of a window from Celtic, but we have hours to save ourselves, guys. So you never know. Appreciate your time, both of you. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in and commenting away, etc., etc. You're all legends. Anything to say there, Ryan?
Yeah, just at the end there, just at the bottom of the screen, guys. If you are interested in what we do and you want to support us even further, just look at the ticker tape at the bottom of the screen, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £4 for 4 months, £18 for a year would really help us. We've been trying to get a subscriber count up on both YouTube, and we thank everybody for subscribing, but we need to get more subscribers on the website as well. If you are interested, celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Yep.
Excellent.
One final thought. I'll keep it short. Right. We'll still win this league.
I agree.
Let's be up. We'll still win the league. We've beaten Rangers 2 times out of 2 with a degree of comfort, even in the first game when we'd have a team. We'll still win it. We'll be favourites. I don't care what MD says. We'll be favourites to win at Ibrox. We'll beat them at Parkhead. We'll still win it, but it still doesn't negate the questions that we all have about what appears to have happened or didn't happen in this transfer window. That's all.
Yes, a good way to finish. Thanks, guys. Ryan and Tony will speak to you later.